What would happen to your life if you completely cut out short form consumption from your routine? What would the positive effect be in your personal life and even in your business? Well, that's exactly what we are talking about today. You're listening to the Street Cred podcast, the show laser focused on helping you turn your streetwear side hustle into a full-time career. I'm Elijah Delport. And before I get into this dopamine cut that I speak of, I want to share with you some really exciting news about this podcast. So I'm going to get into what I spoke of in the beginning, in the second half of this episode. But first, what's going on? Well, as you may or may not know, this is a weekly show. Street Cred, I record it once a week, posted on Mondays. But there's a change coming, and I indefinitely into the future am going to be trying a daily podcast. Yes, that's right, a daily podcast. So what does that mean? Well, every morning around about the same time, I will be uploading a podcast, and I'll be speaking for around about 10 minutes. I don't want to speak for too long, and not for, I need a little bit of time to get my thoughts out as well. So I think 10 minutes is a good sweet spot that I'm going to be aiming for. And I'm going to be talking about streetwear and culture and business as I usually do. It's just going to be in a bit of a shorter form. Maybe something you can listen to on the way to work or as you go about your day. And I think this is really exciting. It's really exciting to me because I get to share with you my thoughts on a daily basis as they come to. And in fact, show you and I get to demonstrate exactly what I preach, which is creating content every single day, something from start to send. Instead of start to finish, where, it could always be better. It could always be more finished. That's why I say start to send instead. So that's what I want to demonstrate through this daily podcast. And I think that's what makes me really excited about it. So more on that to come. But this is day one, and I think it's quite fitting that we start this daily podcast challenge with a bit of a secondary challenge to run alongside it. And I'll tell you the story of how I got here first, and then I'll tell you what the challenge is. So the other day, I got in my car and I was driving, and I had this boredom where I was just looking at the road in front of me. I was driving, and what the heck do I do with my time? The music wasn't enough. The podcast wasn't enough. And when I got to my destination, the first thing I do is I picked up my phone, I opened it, and I checked Instagram. And after I checked Instagram, I checked my school community, which is the thing that I'm growing right now for streetwear brands. There's a link in the description. You can join 100% for free. Join with other passionate brand owners. So check out that link. But anyway, I checked the school community, see my messages and whatever. I checked Facebook messages, see if anything had updated there. And all the channels, essentially. I checked all the channels. And it occurred to me that I had no reason to check. I had no notifications on my home screen. There was nothing I was expecting. I was checking because I was seeking a hit of dopamine. I was seeking the acceptance that I feel from the notification when there's a little red 1 next to an app, or when I've got a message, or when someone's liked my post. I was seeking that as a way to fulfill myself. And honestly, I think I'm pretty good when it comes to social media, but this was a real low point for me because it made me realize I'm not actually as good with it all as I thought I was. I'm not as in control as I thought I was. And so I decided I had to make a change. And the change that I had to make was to somehow go cold turkey on all of things. And so this is where the 30-day no entertainment challenge comes in. And it goes like this. First of all, the reason I'm telling you about it is because I'm inviting you to join with me in doing this. So I'm going to explain the challenge, and then I'm going to explain a bit more why we would do something like this. So here it is. The challenge is very simple. I've already started. I started yesterday. It is no consuming of any visual media, only creating. So that means no short form content of any kind, no reels, no YouTube shorts, no TikToks, no posts, right? It means no films, no movies, no YouTube, anything that is visual media. There is an exception, however. And the exception is if the consuming is as a social activity. So if I'm invited to consume with somebody else, so if a friend invites me out to watch a movie with them, or someone says, "Hey, come over, let's watch a show," you can do that. Because that is as a social activity, not just consuming entertainment mindlessly. And there was one other exception. Oh, yes, and the other thing is it's about creating. So no consuming of visual media, only creating. And so this is going to be a real dopamine cut. And I wanted to do, like, I love habits. And so when I realized that I was looking for the dopamine hit every time that I open the app, I realized this is a problem. I need to cut this off because this is not productive, number one. It's also not healthy for my mental state to be just like a slot machine every time. What am I going to get? Every time I open Instagram, what am I going to get? Every time I open the school app, what am I going to get? And sometimes it can hinder our productivity. It's kind of like a silent killer. Like, let me just bring up my screen time right now. It's been good sometimes, it's been bad, but as of recently, on my phone, it's loading as we speak. Let's have a look. Oh, it's not coming up for some reason. Alright, well maybe... Oh, here we go. Okay, now it's just come up. So last week, my daily average last week was 2 hours on my phone. That's ridiculous. With what I could think I could do in 2 hours is nuts. Imagine if I spent that time every day in that week. Over the week, that's 14 hours in a week. Like, what could I do with 14 hours? I could create some crazy resource for you, or I could be just resting. I could be regenerating. So I spent in total last week 6.5 hours on Instagram. And if I go into how many notification pickups did I do. So the number of times that I opened my phone to check last week, the average, 56 times a day, average. I checked my phone on average 56 times a day. That is crazy to me. To think that I picked up my phone and turned it on 56 times. That is nuts. That is absolutely nuts to me. And yeah, and my average use of Instagram is 1 hour a day at the moment, which is far too much. So look, the point of this is not only to increase productivity, but also to increase rest. I think about entertainment, and I reflect on the fact that in history, like, there's never been a time like this where we've consumed so much entertainment by ourselves. Think about it. Let's go back ancient history, like gladiators. As brutal as it was, it's entertainment for them, right? That was a family event. You went with the fam to see the gladiators bloody up the floor. Right? You see what I'm saying? When cinema was introduced in the early 20th century, that was a family affair. You go to the cinemas for a special event, a special celebration. It was an occasion. It was a night out. Now, we've got our phones. We've got our laptops. And I know for me, entertainment has become a very unhealthy habit of entertainment in solitude, where I'm trying to rest, I'm trying to regenerate, and instead of actually doing that in a healthy manner, I'm lying in my bed with my laptop and watching Netflix. And it's not at all social. And I don't think it's a problem that you always have to be with someone, because of course we need time to regenerate, as does anyone, especially us introverts. I myself am an introvert, and I need time to regenerate alone. However, I think what's the only other time in history where we've had consumption entertainment like this, and we've done it solo, is prostitution. This is the only other time, other than Instagram Reels and other than Netflix. Before now, the only other thing that's available for solo entertainment consumption is prostitution, which blows my mind, right? and blows my mind and points out to me the problem. It's that entertainment like this is something it's to be shared as a solo activity. I don't even think it's meant for solo use. And for that reason, that's part of the reason I want to start this challenge. So, dear streetwear brand owner, I invite you to join with me in doing this challenge. The truth is that us business owners, especially in the early stages, wear many, many hats. We do a lot of work. And so when we're working, we need to be at maximum productivity. There is no other option. If we're going to make this work, especially with such limited time, when you're working a day job, whatever else, you need to be working at maximum productivity. And so cutting out the consumption of short form or any visual media entirely means that when you're working, you are purely working, you are focused. Does that mean you're working all the time? No. It might mean you work more, which might be a good thing, but it doesn't have to mean that. The other side of this coin is that you rest better. And that's sometimes the most productive thing you can do. So when I say this is going to help increase productivity, I think of both sides. It's going to help you do more work, and it's going to help you rest better. Because, my sleep schedule used to be very strict. From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I would sleep. Recently, it's been out of whack. I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. I'm going to bed at 11. I'm going to bed at midnight. I'm going to bed, I'm not in bed until midnight, and that means, I'm asleep at, 12:30. That's a problem. And it's much the reason is because of my mind is going crazy at 10 p.m. at night. So how could I sleep when I'm thinking about all the reels that I saw that day, definitely not remembering them? A few arguments that I often hear about consuming short form content is that it's good. It is education. I do not come against that. I think there are some really great parts of short form content. And my conflict with it is that I create short form content. I'm part of the problem, if there is one. And I think we can all agree there is. So there is good. It's not all bad. However, I'm not thinking bad versus good. It's not black and white. I'm thinking of a greater good. I'm saying, yes, you can be educated from Instagram Reels. However, is there better education that comes from reading an article, or that comes from reading a book, or listening to a podcast? Probably. Are you going to retain it longer? Absolutely. So it's not good or bad, because Instagram Reels are not bad. There are bad parts and there are good parts. However, there is a greater good, and that is what I'm striving for all the time. Not just this is good and this is bad, because nothing is like that. Nothing is like that. So I'm striving for the greater good. Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking this challenge is something where we become daily producers, not consumers. And that's going to be really great, because I think it's a lost art, becoming a producer, someone who creates. And I work a lot with streetwear brand owners and in coaching when we have these brainstorming sessions, when we're doing content ideation. A lot of times I'm surprised at how much people just shrug their shoulders, say, I don't know. And they actually don't know. But it's because I believe that the art of production, of creativity, is lost, because it's a muscle that you have to work out. And unless you are doing that, and also not consuming all of the time, then that muscle becomes really weak and it can't be used. And that's a real problem for business owners. Like, if you don't want to be a business owner, whatever, right? I'm just saying that if you want to be a business owner, well, you better have a pretty strong creative muscle there for designing and for content creation, right? Designing being the product and the content creation being the customers. So, look, that's it for this. I'm going to leave it there. Please, I invite you, please join with me. If you have no reason not to do it, then just do it, right? Just do it. Just say yes, because I guarantee if you join with me in doing this 30-day challenge, I don't think I mentioned that, 30 days, right? If you join with me in doing this 30-day challenge, I think you are going to be amazed at the results. So let's create, let's not consume. You can read books, listen to podcasts, listen to music. That's the rules I'm putting around it anyway. You can consume movies and videos and visual media inside of a social setting. Other than that, nothing solo. Let's get more productive in working and resting. That is the goal for all of this. If you are joining with me and you'd like to show your alliance in this mission, in this challenge, well, please send me an email. I'll leave my email in the description of wherever you are consuming this podcast. But you can also just go to lige@elijahdelport.com. Email me there. It's Lige at Delport with an E at the end, .com. And there, send me an email. Let me know, hey, Elijah, I'm in. Let's do this challenge together. And so I'm really excited, and I'll see you tomorrow for another podcast. Bye-bye now.